One swallowed whistle, just one could vaporize the billion-dollar surge. Caitlin Clark has brought to the WNBA. Economists peg her at 26.5% of all league money in 2024, and project she pumped nearly $1 billion into this season alone. We got a taste of what's at stake the night she returned from injury. ABC's Fever Liberty broadcast averaged 2.2 million viewers and spiked to 2.8 million, outdrawing the men's Stanley Cup on cable. FrontOfficeSports.com, when she sat for 5 games. National ratings cratered 55%. HOOPSHYPE.com, those numbers aren't just big, they're existential. Yet behind closed doors, coaches admit they're telling players to be as physical as possible, because 80+% of the time, the refs let it ride. Rebecca Lobo says every coach she's spoken to agrees the whistle has vanished, and consistency has to get better. So here's the open secret: if the next elbow, eye gouge, or hip check knocks Clark out again, the league's record crowds, soaring jersey sales, and upcoming TV deal all teeter on that silent whistle. Ready to see how close the WNBA is to the brink? Keep watching, because the clock is already ticking. June 17th at Gamebridge Fieldhouse should have been just another regular season grind. Instead, it morphed into a livewire cautionary tale. The Fever led the Sun by a bucket when rookie guard J.C. Sheldon raked a thumb across Caitlin Clark's eye, sending the league's headline act blinking away tears. Seconds later, Marina Mabrey lowered her shoulder and flattened Clark to the hardwood. Fans gasped. Play-by-play crews assumed an ejection was coming. Nothing, only matching technicals for Clark, Mabrey, and veteran Tina Charles. The ignited social feeds. And by morning, the league's own review panel quietly upgraded Mabrey's shove to a flagrant 2-2 late to matter on the scoreboard. But a public admission that the refs had lost control. Even that fix came with collateral damage. Sophie Cunningham's retaliatory foul in the final minute drew a $400 fine, turning her into an overnight enforcer, folk hero among Clark's followers. Inside the press room, Fever coach Stephanie White could barely mask her fury. "Everybody's getting better, except the officials," she snapped, pointing to a -31 free throw gap over 3 games and warning the league that the meltdown had been telegraphed from the opening tip. "We knew this was going to happen," White said. "You could see it coming. That perfect storm, eye gouge, a body check, and a swallowed whistle broadcast a brutal message. If the refs can't protect the face of the league, someone else will try, and chaos will follow." But the scariest part isn't what happened. It's what could happen next if that whistle stays silent. Because the real numbers, the ratings, the revenue, the billion-dollar upside are about to collide with an officiating system still stuck in first gear. And the fallout is bigger than one box score. The numbers nobody can ignore. Take Caitlin Clark off the floor, and the graphs nosedive like a roller coaster that lost its track. During her 5-game injury break, national WNBA telecasts shed 55% of their audience, while Indiana's own broadcasts crashed from 1.8 million viewers to just 847K. TheBigLead.com, the very instant she came back. ABC's Fever Liberty Showdown averaged 2.2 million and peaked at 2.8 million, eclipsing this season's Stanley Cup cable average and ranking as the 3rd most watched WNBA game ever on the network. FrontOfficeSports.com, ESPN.com, follow the money trail, and the stakes only climb. A finance study from Indiana University shows Clark generated 26.5% of all league economic activity in 2024 and is on pace to pour nearly $1 billion into the WNBA ecosystem this season through tickets, merchandise, and ad revenue. C.com, that means every minute she's in uniform is worth real, countable dollars, and every minute she isn't feels like someone just yanked the plug on the league's cash register. No other athlete in modern pro sports carries that kind of leverage. And here's the kicker: the ref's whistle is now the single, fragile thread holding that billion-dollar boom in place. Because if the league can't turn ratings gold into on-court protection, coaches will keep gaming the system, and the numbers you just saw will be the first casualties. Up next, the insiders who admit they're telling their rosters to push the line until the whistle finally blows. Coaches and players revolt behind the cameras. A quiet consensus has hardened: if the refs won't police it, we'll do it ourselves. Rebecca Lobo says every single coach she's spoken with is preaching maximum contact because they know the whistle shows up only 2 minutes out of 40. In other words, the league's own strategists are openly gaming an officiating system they no longer trust. Indiana's Stephanie White turned that distrust into a public indictment after the Fever Liberty fiasco, ripping a -31 free throw gap over 3 games and calling the trend pretty unbelievable. The league fined her, but the fine only amplified her point. If a head coach has to pay to be heard, something is badly off balance. Essentially, Las Vegas boss Becky Hammon is just as blunt. Asked how to slow Clark, she shrugged. "You have to be physical, or she'll cook you for dinner." Translation: rough her up until an official finally objects. Veterans like Aja Wilson and Brittany Griner echo the warning. calling the game outdated and harmful. After a spate of headshots and ankle rolls, league-wide. Players feel it every night. When refs laugh off complaints about twisted landings or hacked wrists, frustration morphs into retaliation. And enforcers, hello, Sophie Cunninghammer and Coltiro status for doling out payback. The code now reads, protect your star or lose her. But turning the court into a self-policed frontier solves nothing. It only ups the odds of a season-ending injury that would gut the league's momentum in one sickening thud. And that leads to the real fault line. The WNBA's part-time, underfunded officiating system that was never built for million-viewer spotlights. In the next section, we'll crack open exactly why the infrastructure can't keep up, and how every swallowed whistle pushes the league closer to disaster. Cracks in the ref foundation. The WNBA's athletes have never been faster, stronger, or more visibly. The league still relies on a rotating crew of part-time officials who moonlight in college gyms all winter and squeeze a condensed training camp into a single long weekend every spring. That mismatch shows up every night. The pace is NBA quick, but the whistle still moves at 2010 speed, unlike their NBA counterparts who earn six-figure salaries, study film year-round, and huddle with the centralized replay bunker. WNBA refs fly City to SAT on commercial flights, pocket a Pergam check, and handle video reviews entirely on the floor. No last 2-minute report gets published, so blown calls vanish into the fog, breeding conspiracy theories and a growing sense that accountability simply doesn't exist. The timing couldn't be worse. Next season's expansion to 16 teams and a 44-game slate means even more possessions to police and more national broadcasts to scrutinize every missed elbow. League brass quietly floated the idea of full-time officials and a dedicated replay hub, but no rollout date or budget line has surfaced. Meanwhile, coaches have already adjusted. If the ref crew is juggling travel fatigue, limited prep, and playoff-level intensity, that crew will miss contact on the weak side or swallow the whistle on a late clock drive. Players sense it within the first 5 minutes, and the game spirals into a survival contest long before halftime. The result is baked-in volatility. One night you get a slow whistle that lets defenders maul guards off the ball. The next you get a touch foul parade that turns the lane into a free throw factory. Consistency dies, frustration soars, and safety becomes the first casualty. Which brings us to the looming danger everyone feels but no one wants to voice out loud. How many more improvised enforcers and revenge hacks can the league absorb before a superstar's season ends on a stretcher? The answer lives in the next collision where the human body meets an officiating system still running on borrowed time. Safety alarm bells. Caitlin Clark already missed 5 games this season with a deep thigh bruiser freak collision that looked routine until the swelling ballooned overnight. The league held its breath. Ratings slid, and executives whispered the same fear. What if next time she doesn't bounce back? They didn't have to wait long for another scare. 2 nights after Clark returned MVP, frontrunner A'ja Wilson caught an inadvertent elbow to the temple, staggered to the bench, and entered concussion protocol. 1 star down changes a matchup. 2 stars down changes an entire broadcast schedule, and it isn't just the headliners. Sabrina Ionescu rolled an ankle on a hip check that went unwhistled. Brittany Griner landed on a shooter's foot and limped to post-game interviews in a walking boot. Natasha Cloud, sick of pleading her case, tells reporters that refs actually laugh when she points out hand-checking that's turning into outright arm bars. The pattern is undeniable. Rising viewership has arrived faster than adequate protection, and the injury list is growing like a grim scoreboard. Coaches feel the tension in every pre-game walkthrough. Trainers tape, ankles higher, players pop ibuprofen by halftime. Everyone knows that one more reckless swipe, one more eye gouge, hip check, or late-game shove could snatch the league's golden hour right off the court. The only question now is who steps in first, the officials, or the players determined to police the floor themselves. Next up, the unofficial enforcers.